Over the years, Supercell has found itself in legal battles time and time again. Often these lawsuits are just parents suing them because their kid bought gems and can't get a refund, but every now and then a serious, large-scale lawsuit turns up in their letterbox. This is the story of why Supercell was sued for $100 million and lost. Let's start with why Supercell ended up in this situation in the first place. A Japanese company called Gree Incorporated owns a range of patents for some of their gaming-related tech. Oh, and by a range, I mean well over 1,000. It's fairly common for large companies to file patent after patent for as many things as they possibly can, but in the gaming world, given Gree's size, this is a staggering number. They kept poking at Supercell with a lawsuit here and there, until one eventually stuck. They alleged that Supercell had knowingly and willfully infringed on some of their patents. To put a long jargon-filled story short, they alleged that Supercell copied some of their ideas and decided to take it to court, with the hope of raking in millions if the court ruled in their favour. In reality, it's easier to think of Gree's legal battle against Supercell as a ton of different mini lawsuits over the years, but they were all going at the same idea, which was that Supercell had been infringing on some of their patents. Just a heads up, trying to trawl through the amount of legal jargon in these patents is straight up painful, so if I miss anything or get any of this incorrect, I can only apologise. These patent filings are all thousands of words long and are often written in a deliberately vague way so that they can cover as wide of a ground as possible. With that being said, let's try and decipher what Supercell may have copied from Gree. The main bulk of their alleged copying came from a few sets of patents. Firstly, there's patents 9079107 and 9561439. These ones are about storing and accessing game data, as well as how certain aspects of the game are managed and handled. In essence, it kind of goes over how to store and track when a player has unlocked or done a certain thing in the game, and has this figure included which is about how to track and run player-triggered events. There are also these two patents here. These basically cover a system which improves how items are collected in online games, and specifically with the goal of improving the variety and predictability of getting better and rarer items. So from what I understand, the system they're talking about at a very general level works like this. They've come up with some methods of displaying information about certain in-game items that players can collect. Part of this is showing what is available and the odds of getting them. They also explain a way of managing how these items are distributed and collected in the game. The method is meant to make the game feel more engaging and fair, with the idea being that it feels more predictable when it comes to getting rarer items. Thirdly, it covers the server side of things, and this is how the system's managed. In the patent, they describe how the server is where most of the stuff is going to be controlled from, which is responsible for stuff like processing the fact that a player has now acquired a certain thing. Finally, they cover the software required to carry all of this stuff out on the game's server, and how it can be done properly to keep players interested and keep the game balanced. Finally, there are patents 10.328.346 and 10.335.689. These ones cover a system used to manage in-game events, how rewards are distributed, how the game server executes all of this, and finally how all of this information is processed and in real time. This is basically about how units can be picked and controlled mid-game with a divided playing field. The fact a divided playing field is mentioned might give you a bit of a clue. This sounds a little bit like Clash Royale. Now, to a layman like you or I, the patents from a general overview seem like concepts in a ton of existing mobile games. I can think of countless examples of games which have player-led events and server-side controls. I mean, that's basically all live service games at this point. I guess in the eyes of the law, Gree came up with an innovative, highly original concept, and Supercell copied them though. Based on the fact Supercell lost, they must have really towed the line with just how similar they decided to make some of their work. In the end, the lawsuit was concluded with Supercell being found guilty of misuse of 6 of the patents outlined and were ordered to pay $92 million. Here's the thing though, Gree and Supercell have had legal battles extending far beyond just the $92 million one. This wasn't even the first time Gree sought compensation from Supercell. Back in 2018, they sued Supercell from Japan, but the courts dismissed the case. Then in 2020 they moved the battle over to Texas and filed another 3 lawsuits covering a total of 15 patents. Apparently they moved the dispute there because Texas is a more favourable place to run a patent-related lawsuit, which seemingly might be the case since they won. Supercell also tried to sue Gree back, but that didn't really go anywhere. Interestingly, Supercell and Gree, despite seemingly being sworn enemies, do actually have a working relationship. Supercell paid Gree around $4.5 million for the licenses to use a load of their other patents. As I said, there is a lengthy and convoluted legal history between these two companies, but as it stands, Gree seems to have won $100 million to 0. So that's the dull one with a big number. Let's take a look at another significant lawsuit which Supercell actually won. In 2021, Supercell were on the receiving end of a class action lawsuit over its loot boxes in some of its games. The claims against Supercell were that Brawl Stars and Clash Royale contained loot boxes, which were illegal in California. Yeah, that's pretty much it. The plaintiffs say that loot boxes should be illegal under Californian law since they should be considered to be illegal gambling games. One of them said they spent about $150 on loot boxes, whilst the other spent around $1,100. As I say, their claims are pretty much dependent on the idea of loot boxes being illegal in California. So let's take a look at that one, shall we? They claimed that it should be considered illegal gambling since these items have monetary value. This was obviously found not to be the case, since in-game items aren't worth jack shit. They then countered this with, well yeah, but what if you sell your account? To which Supercell obviously pointed straight at their T's and C's, which show that account trading is prohibited. The case was thrown out because, according to California law, loot boxes are not illegal gambling. This logic relating to loot boxes has been tried time and time again in the courts over a number of different games, and I think it's pretty clear that these lawsuits are just a waste of everyone's time. At the end of the day, the rewards are fundamentally worthless and no one is forcing you to buy them. So there you go, at least Supercell got a win out of that one. They've also won quite a few others, by the way. There's been many lawsuits over the years of just generally parents complaining about microtransactions and that sort of thing, but again, you know, they're going to get thrown out. At the end of the day, I personally think that the games industry, apart from very exceptional circumstances, would definitely be a lot better without constant lawsuits and patent disputes. This used to be a fairly uncommon phenomenon in the gaming industry, but it seems that increasing numbers of big corporate battles in the industry are going on. Sometimes these lawsuits are justified and help to protect consumers, such as the one against Nexon for lying to its consumers, but a majority of the time it's just huge corporations trying to pick at each other for money and market share. So what do you think? Should loot boxes be considered illegal gambling? Do let us know in the comments and subscribe for more.